Hello, truth seekers. Lawrence here, and welcome to Easy Enlightenment. So, if you want to end the inner struggle and find ease in your life, you have to make your spiritual practice personal. Personal in a way that you have to question yourself. You have to ask yourself, why am I struggling? Or why do I have the fear in my life? Questioning is a simple and straightforward approach to figure out the root cause of the struggle. And when the root is seen, the root must be dismantled until nothing is left, so that the life won't pulsate from the root. And when the dismantling part is there, all the way until nothing is left, that's where one is able to figure out the absolute truth, the unchanging truth, or the plain sight truth. And when the truth is seen, then the ego self in oneself will give up. The, the narration, the story, the drama drops in oneself. Dropping the drama is inner freedom. End of the inner struggle and start of the easy living, fearless living. So, this is possible if we make the spiritual practice personal, pointing the fingers at oneself, not at the world. So, self inquiry is the must. Now, if you make the practice personal, eventually you'll see the truth. If you are being part of the spiritual practice, but if you're not making personal, then the ego self is just becoming more stubborn, more righteous. The spiritual practice makes the people more righteous. And when righteousness is there, end up pointing fingers at the world more. When we start the spiritual practice, we start with seeking the knowledge, isn't it? We seek the credential, we seek the practice. And from that seeking what and how, we are collecting the expression of the spirituality. And when we're not making the journey personal, the collection is just gonna make person end up pointing fingers at the world. And pointing fingers at the world doesn't dissolve the inner conflict, the inner drama, doesn't dissolve the fear. Ego loves to point fingers at the world just to avoid the death of the ego. When pointing fingers at the world and saying how the world is wrong, the ego self is trying to make the world a better place without looking into one's own issue, why the struggle is there, why the fear is there. The outward chaos is coming from the inward misalignment and inward chaos by not recognizing the absolute truth. And we deny the truth and just going out. It's a never-ending journey. Yes, we can make things better, a little bit better in the world. But that better in the world doesn't dissolve the ongoing issue, doesn't dissolve the fear. And you know that. Before you, a lot of people tried to make the world a better place. For hundreds and thousands of years, people are trying to make a world a better place. Look, the world is in the same place of chaos, conflict, violence, war. So from this seeing, we should understand that just working outside is not going to solve the problem, especially when the problem is inside. So, if you want to make a better world a better place, you have to figure out the truth within. So you have to disengage from the world and engage with yourself. The world can wait. By the way, if everybody work in the same way, the world can wait. The violence is already stopped. The chaos is already dismantled by working on ourselves. And then working on oneself will help to figure out the truth. When the truth is seen, the ego gives up. Ego giving up is dismantling of the unnecessary movement in the world as well. So, if you have the habit of pointing the fingers at the world by saying how the fucked up the world is, that is already the ego self in you coming out. You must recognize that. You have to question your ego. You have to question yourself why you're moving in such a way. So, collecting ideas, pointing fingers at the world doesn't do anything to dissolve your inner conflict and fear. If you want to live your life fearlessly, live with peace, live with ease, then self-inquiry is the must. You have to question yourself why you're struggling, why you have fear. That's a simple way. So question yourself, why am I struggling? Why do I have this fear? Start there and trace it back. See how far you can trace it back to figure out the root. And if you figure out the root, then once you figure out the root, you have to let go the root. And especially when your life is comfortable from that root, you will be attached to that root. Giving up that attachment brings fear. The idea of fear comes in. And then we resist to give up until we give up. There's no truth, because the attachment itself is a sign of fear. We are afraid to let go. So then you have to question yourself, why do I have this fear of letting go? And then that will help you to reach no mind. So this is the process. Questioning is a must. Self-examination is a must to dissolve the mind. Dissolving the mind means dissolving the ego. Any ideas that you believed in, you must question. You must question. Every ideas that makes you move out to narrate the story in your head or to act on that idea, you must question. Questioning is the way to be thorough of yourself, to see the nature of the mind, to see how the mind becomes real in you. And that's the whole journey, the enlightenment journey, seeing the nature of the mind. And once you see the nature of the mind, then there is inquiry, further inquiry, asking yourself, who am I? And that who am I is going to make you click. The spiritual practice is very simple, guys. Okay? It's just turning your awareness back to yourself and questioning yourself. Questioning in a way that you are tracing the mind backward. Tracing your idea backward. Tracing your belief backward. All ideas, all belief, all preference in you is the ego. So tracing your ego back to figure out why there's an ego. And asking yourself, who am I? To make the who am I work in your spiritual practice is by being thorough in dismantling the mind. If you're not thorough in dismantling the mind, when you ask you, who am I? It won't work. It won't make you see the plain sight truth. That's the bitter truth. Thoroughness is the way to see the truth. So thoroughness is always missing in the spiritual practice. Why? Because the spiritual practice is not personal. So make it personal and question yourself and trace your mind backward. And simple way I'm recommending the example is question yourself. Why am I struggling? Or why do I have fear? That's personal, isn't it? So make it personal. See how far you can go today. Okay? Okay, that's all in this video. I hope this video makes sense. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Take care for now. Bye.